Good afternoon, everybody. It is just after 2, and I would like to call the meeting for this afternoon to order. In the council chamber, we have all members of council, along with our CAO, Deepak Joshi. We also have Heather Stanek with us, and she is our manager of admin and planning. So with that, I will ask for a resolution for the adoption of the agenda, please.
Resolve the agenda for the meeting be adopted as circulated with the noted additions. Communications for action, Red River Basin Commission Holiday Gala, 5.6. Accounts, financial statement, 7.2. Operating budget ending September 30th. Communications for information, 9.41. Peguis First Nations news release. And 9.9.1. Gaynor Family Regional Library agenda minutes and library report. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Bazarowicz, second Councillor Boulanger. Any other discussion or additions or deletions for the agenda this afternoon? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we're going to go down to number 5, communications for action. And the first item is the 2022 Manitoba Watersheds Conference, and that is in December of this year.
Yes, Madam Mayor, December 5th and 7th at the Canadians Polo Park, and that's the conference that's going to be held for the Watersheds Conference. And there isn't much detail as to the agenda, but they are recommending that we register early. So what we felt was possibly a resolution for council to be able to attend.
Yeah, I did go on the website and there wasn't actually much there. They did have a little bit more of the agenda than what was in our package. But I guess what I was thinking, is this the old Watershed Conference?
Correct.
Okay, Conservation District Conference, it used to be. Okay. All right, so I don't know, it's pretty early, there's still a month to go, so I think perhaps if we wanted to pass the resolution, we could just pass it for the mayor and council, and then we can figure out who's going a little bit later.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
Just to confirm, do we belong now to, did we join?
Yes, we confirm.
We confirm that we are joining, yes. Yes, so. Okay, if you have a resolution, go ahead.
Resolved, Mayor Peebles-Corn and council be authorized to attend the 2022 Manitoba Watersheds Conference in Manitoba on December 5th to the 7th, 2022.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, Councillor Horvath seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. And I guess on that one, once the election is over, we'll send something out from the office to see who's wanting to attend. The next one is the START program 20th anniversary. And I attended that on Friday. It was actually kind of interesting, so I've got a little bit more in my committee reports. I think this resolution is just authorizing me to attend.
Correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Resolved, Mayor Peebles-Corn be authorized for her attendance at the START program 20th anniversary at the Selkirk United Church, Selkirk, Manitoba, which was held on Friday, October 14th, 2022.
Passed by, or moved by Councillor Bazarowicz, second Councillor Horvath. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 5.3, Red River North Tourism.
And again, this was held on the 12th,
Yes.
Madam Mayor, and this is just a resolution for yourself and Councillor Strang
Right.
to be authorized for.
Yeah, and we'll report on it in our committee reports. I have a couple of notes, and I'm sure Councillor Strang has some things that she may want to add also.
So resolved, Mayor Peebles-Corn and Councillor Strang be authorized for their attendance at the Red River North Tourism Meeting in St. Andrews, Manitoba, which was held on October 12th, 2022.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, second. Councillor Horvath. Any questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I just have one question that's kind of more to do with council. Like, when Gary goes to these events as our EDO, does he need authorization, or is he just kind of able to attend?
He gets authorization from myself.
Okay, okay, so it doesn't have to come from the
Doesn't have
council.
to.
Okay, perfect. Okay, the next one we have is the 40th Annual Red River Basin Conference. And I can't remember what the date on that one is.
This one is again in the future, in January 17th to the 19th of 2023 at the Port Perry Hotel. And it's their full conference that's going to be occurring then. And again, we're asking for just a resolution for the mayor and the council to attend, and it will pick individuals. This way it will allow us to register as soon as possible.
Okay, the only question I would have is, did we, by any chance, book any rooms?
Yes, we did look at the Port Perry Hotel, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
Okay,
one or two books.
Yes, I thought 2 books. But
Okay.
double check.
I know it's just in Winnipeg, but I guess, depending on the weather, I would prefer to stay in the city if I do end up attending, so,
Is that the annual 40th annual River Basin?
Yes,
one are we at?
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
yeah, so. Okay, if we could have the resolution then, please.
Resolved, Mayor Peoplecorn and Council be authorized to attend the 40th Annual Red River Basin Summit Conference in Winnipeg, Manitoba on January 17th to the 19th, 2023.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, second Councillor Belanger. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the next one we have is the ESRA fundraiser, another fundraiser that they're having, and it's a fish fry. And I guess actually on this one, I bought my tickets. I wasn't planning to bring it up in council. I was just going as a community member more than as a member of council. So I'm not sure what council wants to do with this. I'm not sure if anybody else was planning to attend.
When is it?
Saturday. There's 2 sittings. There's one at 5, and then there's one at 6:30. But the 6:30 one, if you want to stay for quiz night, there's a quiz night after. And actually, I think it was on the website. My son said now they're having free skating or at both events.
Good idea.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, because ice is in, so they said if you're coming for 5 o'clock, the free skate is at 4, I think he said. And if you're coming for the later one, it's at an hour before, so 5:30, so I'm not sure what council wants to do with it.
I'm gonna try to get the 6:30 one.
Okay,
Yeah, I've already, but I wasn't sure if it was council or just over.
well, I guess you could have that discussion. I mean, I'm just going on my own. I wouldn't.
I'm going, me too, I'm just gonna go. Just
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
the way it should be. You shouldn't be getting paid for it. I don't think anyway, but whether I'm going or not, I might go.
yeah, I don't know if you have to order your tickets ahead of time. I can't remember what the
I
invitation
think you can
said.
buy at the door, can't you?
Do you have tickets ever?
It says first come, first served.
No, it was
We can
all
get them
online.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Online?
online, yeah. Okay, so what is the wish? Are we going through council or are we just doing it on our own?
Well, I was going on my own.
So is I.
That's
If
all I
I
can
go,
say.
I'll be on my own.
I'll go on there.
Okay,
Okay, so
go
then
ahead,
there's-
Councillor Strang.
I think that's something that council, or whether we want to leave it till next council, I think that's something we should have a discussion, because you were going as a representative in, because this is your community. And I think when there is stuff like that, just like I would in my area, that you wouldn't expect it to be paid by council for it. But there are the times that you do go and you're represented, you are going as the mayor or a councillor, that then we should be paid for it. So I think that should be something has to be fine-tuned and maybe discussed.
Yeah, I think that's a
At a later
discussion
date.
we have to have with, after the election, because, I kind of feel the same way. There's things that I go to that, yes, I feel that, we should be paid to go, but there's other things, this is a good example, I don't think I should be paid to go and I guess have supper. And kind of, my rule of thumb has been a little bit that, if I have to speak or anything, then yes,
That's
maybe I
different.
should get
Yeah.
paid. But if I'm just going to have a dinner, I don't believe that I should be, so.
Or if you're asked by the community group or organization to be there,
Right.
even if you're not speaking, but if they want council there for other reasons,
Yeah.
that should be.
You going, Deepa?
So this one, we're just going to leave for now. We'll go on our own if we so choose, so. No resolution required for that one.
Baby's going for the skate.
For the what?
For the skate.
Yeah, I already got
4
them.
o'clock, get your skates out
I
there.
got them in the truck already.
Okay, so 5.6 is the Red River Basin Gala holiday event, and I believe that we did have this before, and I can't remember what we did with it.
mayor and council. I think it was the last meeting or was it the one before?
This probably was already approved. I just added in at the last minute, so we can leave it at the mayor and council be authorized to attend.
Perfect.
So, Madam Mayor, we have the delegation here, so I can let them in on
okay.
Zoom, and then we can bring the delegation in.
Sure.
Hello, Scott, can you hear me?
Yes, I sure can. How are you guys?
Good. Scott, if you want to turn on your camera, you can, and if you can't, that's fine too.
How's that?
There we go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Welcome, Scott. And
Thank you.
so, and I apologize if I'm going to misspell or mispronounce your last name, Mastianek.
Yep.
So Scott Mastianek is here to present and have as a delegation to talk about the St. Hubert's Gun Club and for council to have a discussion on the use and the agreement that's been made with the RM. So Scott, why don't I let you start off, and then we can start giving council some opportunity to ask some questions.
Yeah, and just so you know, Scott, all of council is present here today along with our administration, so.
Okay. I apologize. I wasn't aware that I was making a presentation. I thought we were having some open conversation regarding what we are doing now and what we have done. So just to keep it brief, you know, our location at the end of Road 85 and 35 East, you know, we've maintained that site primarily for member use, but in recent years we've expanded that to include public use for sporting clays, and it's been very successful for us as a club. And so we host Thursday nights for Five Sand, which is a version of sporting clays without the blocking, and we've got a fairly extensive course that we set at a series of stations. Probably have about 16 that are active in any given event safely. And, you know, the bulk of our usage is shotgun, just simply based on target volume per event. But that's a couple of events in the spring, couple in the fall, and then the Thursday night 5 times. So we've got about 90 to 100 members is pretty much our average over the last 5 years, and you know, between associating with the Manitoba Wildlife Federation and our membership is going hand in hand with that. That's been something that's pretty good for us, and pretty proud of what we do, established in 1952 and run by a board that's doing a pretty good job for us.
Scott, are you using just your mic off of your computer? It's a little hard to hear everything. We did hear it. It's just that it seems a little muffled.
I only have the one mic, so
Okay.
I don't have an option to change for you, unless I was to come on to like switch over onto my phone.
That's fine.
No, that's fine. We'll do the best. one or two councillors are having trouble hearing the full thing, but most of us have heard it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. You're right, the intent was to have an open discussion, and it's, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to speak first, and as you were the delegation, and we can have an open discussion with council. You've kind of explained your process and what you've been following and how you've been utilizing it. And I think what council wanted to discuss in more detail was the usage and the number of days, and generally getting the authorization as part of your agreement with the RM in utilizing that space.
Sure, I've talked at length with Tyler on that, and just some handoff, I guess, is really what it came down to this season, as far as although we submitted dates early on, like last November, those, I guess, asking for the clarification on that was missed, and we ran a couple of events in the early season, and then with questions on that, we went back and forth with the minutes to help Tyler understand where we were expanded our, or adjusted, not expanded, adjusted our hours, and then added 2 Sunday usage days, so a total of 4 for the season. And our reasoning behind that was that there was our volunteers. We worked during the week, so to run these events on a Saturday was pretty difficult to get things set up. So using the Saturday from a volunteer perspective and executing the setup for the events and then being able to run them on a Sunday worked pretty good for us.
Okay, thank you for that, Scott. I'm just gonna open it up for council to see if they have any questions for you. So basically what you're saying is that on the weekends, you use the Saturday for your setup for any of the special events that you have, and then Sunday you usually have the event.
That's right.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Scott, thanks for your presentation there, and I think I think when you look at the gun club and its historic presence on Road 89, or where you're located now, a lot has changed since you've been there in terms of, and now that I kind of knew, but now that I heard you say today that the club is more open to public shooting and sort of the gates are open if you want to be a member kind of thing, I think that's where the increased volume and increased usage has occurred over the last number of years. And I think it's related and linked to the residents' concern in the area. I know when you guys were there at first, you were a private gun club, you were doing your thing, you had the odd event here and there. It just seems like it's becoming more of a public, busier club, which is good for you, I get that. But there's a balance that I think me as a councillor wants to see with the public and the usage of your club. You know, and I get what you're saying, that when you hold special events, that's the day that they occur, is on weekends, and Saturday is a good day to set up, and Sunday is the day to shoot. That makes sense, I get that. But what's happening on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Is the club locked up? Is it operational? Now that it's public use, obviously Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are going to be days that now the public can come and shoot skeet and shoot clays and whatever, target practice. Is that going to be, I guess what I'm getting at, is there a day of reprieve? Is there a day that the club is actually quiet?
Yeah, so just to speak specifically to that, to the hours, just give me a moment here to, I'm sure you got it there, but so no shooting outside of special events on Sundays, so we got 4 Sundays through the season. Normally 1 in May, 1 in June, and then another in September and October.
Okay, I think what Councillor Boulanger was getting at is, who is there, if anyone, during the week, Monday to Thursday? Is there shooting going on, or is it just open for members to go at their will during Monday to Thursday?
Yeah, so Mondays 12 to 6 is open, members only, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 2 to 9, members only, and then Friday, 10 till 6, and Saturday, 10 till 6. And on the dates or the weekends when we do have a Sunday event, there is no shooting on the Saturday.
Okay, so there is ability to shoot for members right through the week.
That's correct.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Horbus.
So initially, and I'd like to get some feedback from Tyler too, please. Initially, they were granted 2 Sundays a year, and now they get another 2 additional. Is that how it works? That's what I'm hearing here. Is that?
When you went to your Sunday shooting, were you allowed 2 events per season or 4 from the beginning?
Originally, it was 2, and then we applied to have that adjusted. I think it was back in 19, and it got opened up to 4.
So 2019.
So Tyler, you're kind of in the middle of this, from this side and that side. What have you brought, or what have you gathered? Sorry.
I guess what I gathered was whatever miscommunication and or rapport between the club and council was kind of a little bit lacking. So that's why I wanted to get Scott in here in front of everybody, just to get a clear understanding of what Scott is required to apply to continue to have those 4. It has been a common occurrence that council has granted the club the extended shoots, the special events, and I think that may have set a precedent to assume that those events are going to be granted.
So you're like saying they could have applied for 6 in a year and council would have done that?
I don't know if they've ever applied for that many. I don't think they've applied for 6.
Okay.
I think the number was 2 and now it's at 4. But just my point was, I think the club or the municipality missed that, granting that additional 2 events as per resolution. So the club continued the process of shooting on those days, and that's when some people questioned where's the dialogue, where's the communication line.
Okay,
So that's why I wanted the club to come in and
So now it went from 2 to 4, and if they did want another Sunday, they'd have to come to us and ask for that other
Correct.
Sunday.
correct.
If I could,
Sorry.
Yeah.
the original approval was to accommodate for 2 events per year. In 2019, the club requested for 2 additional events, and they were granted those 2 events. And the thought, and this was the part of the miscommunication that Tyler's talking about, there might have been a misunderstanding thinking that now they were granted up to 4 events per year.
Okay,
When
yeah,
in
that's what I was,
fact, they must come back every year to go anything beyond the 2 in advance. And I think that's the part where we're looking for that clarity, so Scott understands, so that if he is planning for 4 events on a yearly basis, he must come and make sure that he asks for those 2 additional events.
okay. Anything
Go.
else, Tyler?
So I'll just comment here, when the application was made for the adjustment to the hours and the move to 4 Sunday events per season, there was no dialogue or response from council. So if there was miscommunication or misunderstanding because there was no information regarding that decision, that was something that I found in the minutes after it was approved. So once it was approved, I would have anticipated that our club would have been notified of that approval and the conditions on that approval. So it's a reasonable thing for us to think that we went from 2 to 4, and 4 is what we have. So based on the notes that I could pull from the minutes, it's quite vague, and it does, but it does indicate specifically 4. And if we're having to apply for 4 on an annual basis, I think back in August the 8th or so is when I had submitted the dates for 2023, but there was no response on that request.
That's fair. But
Say that again, Scott. What did you say that you applied for 4 for 2023?
Yeah, August the 8th, when we started this dialogue, we needed clarification on what the remaining dates for September and October were for 2022.
Right.
At the same time, in that email, I said, these are the dates that we want for 2023, so, more than as much notice as I could give you.
Okay, thank you for that.
When they,
I have a couple of hands up, but go ahead, Councillor Horbus.
when they shoot on a Sunday, do they have to let us know, or they can just pick any Sunday and shoot?
Specific days.
Yes.
It is specific
Oh, it's
days.
more specific.
Yeah,
Out of the 2 times a year.
right.
And that's the communication Scott's talking about that he sent in August.
Because we could put that on our website then or something to get rid
Okay,
of all
I'm
this.
gonna go around the table because there's a few hands up. I'm gonna go Scott, Rob, and then Councillor Sutherland. Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Okay, so, a lot of what I'm gonna say is going to be asking for clarification. So originally, the approval for the gun club to actually operate, I believe, is a conditional use. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, were they actually given 2 Sundays in that conditional use approval?
Correct.
Okay. So really, the breakdown in communication here is that either we didn't relay it or the gun club, and understanding so, they don't know how planning works. Every year, there's going to be needing to be a request, and it's going to need to be approved. And that's how we need to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Spicer. Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
Yeah, I just was looking at the 2019 resolution of January, and it does indicate that Monday to Friday open with different time, all different times, and then Sunday, no shooting unless it's a special event. So that's very specific, that there's no shooting on Sunday unless there's a special event.
Right.
And originally it was 2, and when they come and ask for 2 more, we said that's fine, correct?
But the approval has to be done every year.
Every time, yes.
And,
Yes.
and
That's,
as,
that's where the miscommunication is taking
Yeah.
place.
Madam Mayor, for
Go ahead.
clarification, and Scott's correct, from my understanding is that when they did receive the approval in 2019, they didn't receive anything in writing saying, yes, you have been approved these 2 events, additional events, and you must come back. So the RM, we should have probably communicated better, and I'll take responsibility for that.
Okay, Councillor Sutherland, you had your hand
Yeah,
up.
so to be clear, that in the agreement, they are allowed 2 Sundays in a year. They have to tell us what Sundays. They don't have to apply for that, is that correct?
Correct.
And he had said, Scott had said that they'd apply in August for events going into 2023.
For 4 events. I
We
think
haven't
it's-
agreed to that.
We haven't seen it.
Okay.
One last question.
So, I just wanted to be clear on that. So it's 2, and they have to apply every year if they want more.
Is that the way you understand it, Tyler?
Yeah.
2, and then if they want 4, they have to apply for the additional 2.
Correct.
To us. Go ahead,
It's
Councillor
our
Boulanger.
condition.
Yeah, yes, Scott, I just wanted to reiterate, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from, trying to strike that balance. When club, and again, on a business sense, it's good for you guys, yes, you open it up to the public, but you gotta understand that that's where the increase of shooting is gonna come from. And I think that's what, not everybody, but some in the area are hearing, is when it's open to the public and it's not, a private club anymore where there's a certain amount of members, things change, right?
Yeah, I'll just comment to your concern regarding volume. The volumes are actually lower in the last 3 years for those open events than they were in the years prior. I've been involved with the club for almost 20 years, and we were in excess of 90 shooters per event, sometimes as much as 150, 160 shooters, and now we host maybe 45 to 55 would be a big event. So the organization of the events and the way that we'll use a shotgun start, like on a golf course where everybody's out on course and it all happens in a tighter time frame without a lunch break, but we're shooting less targets overall, and we've cleaned that up quite a bit compared to what was used to happen, where the events were, like I say, in excess of 80 shooters, and we were shooting 160 targets per. That's considerably more shooters or more targets and more noise than what would be at 45 and 100 targets. So we're doing our best to be in line with what the wishes are around. And we don't get any complaints aside from the complaints that came early this season. And as far as we're concerned, we were doing what we were asked to do on a repeat basis, and if that's changing or if that needs clarification, I hope we get that out of the.
Okay, thanks for that, Scott, and I do believe that you will get more clarification once council has had an opportunity to look at everything again. I'm just going to ask council members if they have any more questions or comments for you. I'm looking around the table, I'm not seeing any hands raised, so do you have anything that you want to close off with? Because I think what we'll do is we'll have a discussion, and you probably should get something in the very near future regarding your August letter that you had sent in.
Yeah, so I do need that clarification for the 4 event dates that we requested last week, or in August here, when the question regarding these September and October events for 2022 were. So if there's someone else that needs to be included on these between Tyler and Heather, and if Heather's moved to a different position, but she's always been our contact here. So if there's someone else who's stick handling all these information requests or this conversation, I need to make sure that we're sending it to the right place so that we are getting timely response, because if we end up with a late response, that's really detrimental to our volunteer group, because these people block out time in their week to do what we do, and when their things have to be canceled at the last minute, it's unfortunate for everybody. So participants and the volunteers included. So anyway, just a little clarification on what that communication line is supposed to be would be helpful.
Yeah, and I'm going to say that if you contact either Tyler or Heather, they should be able to help you. And like I say, if you don't hear from us in the next little while, I would say maybe a week or so, then I would give either one of them a call, and hopefully we can get clarification and get this straightened out so you can have your last events.
Okay. Now, I've also shared with Tyler Friday, August the 4th of 2023, our venue is privileged to host the World Police and Fire Games that's coming to Winnipeg for that last week of July and early August there. So I'll be coming to you with some details on that as they come available, but that's something that we're probably bringing to the municipality, and I'm the technical coordinator for that with World Police and Fire Games, and we're going to have another presentation requirements and whatnot at this venue that I'd like to open that to the council and the mayor yourself to see if that's something you want to consider. We've talked with our MLA and the NPD on the same issue, so we'd like to see all 3 levels there participate in that pretty important event for Winnipeg and our little area.
Yeah, that would be good if you, as soon as you have additional information, if you could forward it on, and we certainly will consider, come next year. Right now, it's a little hard for us to make any commitments with the election just around the corner. We're not sure who'll be sitting around the table, but I think we have enough information that if Tyler has some of that information, and if you forward us something early in the new year as it becomes available, that would be great.
Okay.
And our administrator would like to have a word, so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Joshi.
Just for some clarification, Scott, are you, on the Friday event, are you planning to change the hours of operation from beyond what you are presently using? For that specific event?
Our normal hours from 10 to 6, we might move it 9 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of logistics happening there with these people coming from out of town. The home base for that event is Winnipeg Convention Center, so they've got to box everybody out to us. And so there's a lot of moving pieces that an early start is going to be kind of important.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Scott, and like I say, hopefully we'll be able to get something out to you in the next couple of days, and you can go from there. Did you say, though, that you were supposed to be having an event yet this month in September? October, I should say.
October, yeah.
Sorry.
This coming Sunday.
This coming Sunday? Okay.
That's right.
Okay, so we'll try and sort this out today, and someone should get a hold of you before the end of the week.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's this Sunday, one of their 2 events.
One of their 4 events for this year.
We've allowed them 4, we have already.
Well, they
For
did
this
3
year.
already.
They've been since 2019, and that's the part where that confusion came in.
But we're,
Yeah.
should be back to 2.
Well,
After
we're
this year.
gonna have
And
to
keep it at that, yeah.
discuss
Might.
that,
Yeah.
so.
That's what I was saying, that they were going to set these right here.
Okay, let's move on, and we can discuss this probably a little bit later in camera. And Tyler, do you have anything that you wanted to add, or maybe we'll call you up, or?
Yeah, you can phone me. I would just be speaking on the volume of complaints that I have seen over the last many years. So that's the only thing that I would, that I think my opinion would be of any value with this granting him or denying.
Is there a lot of volume?
It's pretty, specific,
Okay.
the complaint.
Okay, we'll talk about it later.
Thanks, Pat.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I think we are at number 6 on our agenda, new and other business.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Oh, go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Did we pass the minutes, or did I miss it?
No, we did not.
No, we did not. Good point.
Sorry, I just thought we might as well get rid of it.
Thank you for that. Go ahead.
Resolve the minutes of September 27, 2022 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowick, second. Councillor Boulanger, any discussion? Any corrections? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Did we do the last item for action?
Red River Basin Commission, yes, we did. Should we ask it again? 'Cause I don't know if we recorded who the first or second or what.
I think we had a resolution on that.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Is it possible?
Yeah, I think we had it at the last meeting.
Oh, that's why, that's right.
I
We
think-
passed it previously.
Yeah.
And so this was the one that I added as I received the email today as an addendum, but it was already
Right.
addressed.
Yeah. Okay, new and other. 6.1, Valley Fiber offer to purchase, and I'll let Deepak speak to that one.
This is for the offer to purchase the land to put their building in for their distribution equipment that they use for the Valley Fiber. It's in the Gull Lake area on our land right beside the picnic shelter where they're planning on putting this in. And we've gone through the agreement. Heather's been working with them extensively, and their offer to purchase is for nominal amount. And for that, excuse me, We do have the right that the land reverts back to the RM if they ever cease to use it.
Okay, any questions, comments?
How much for the land?
$1.
Land's not holding value up there.
And free internet?
And they'll be providing internet opportunity, free internet and Wi-Fi for the picnic shelter area.
That'd be right.
For that group.
Anybody? Go ahead.
They pay us on a monthly basis.
Pay us on a monthly basis.
Well, is this on,
No, it's for a buck.
No, no.
No, they're buying.
Oh, God,
This
okay.
is,
I thought it was, okay, I'm clear now.
Okay, so do we have a resolution for this?
whereas DIF Southern Fiber, Valley Fiber submitted offer to purchase a lot approximately 72 feet by 125 feet to be subdivided from the land legally described as Lot 2, Plan 31515 for the purchase of a price of $1. Therefore be it resolved, council accept the offer of purchase and authorize the mayor and CEO to sign the same. And just a further note, they are paying for all subdivision and application fees and so forth.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, second Councillor Strang. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor
One quick
Spicer.
question. Now, I understand this is our land, but we do have a community group that kind of looks after that. They're okay with
There's been communications with the Call Lake Ratepayers Association.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, got a mover, got a seconder. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, 6.2, snow clearing for the municipal office, and I believe there's a decision paper there.
Yes, Madam Mayor, so as council's discussion with council, we went out for a tender to see if we could receive some offers for snow clearing. And we basically, only two came back. The last one was on the very last day of the closing. And the two offers are, one is from Gellers and the other is from Sampson Concrete Inc. And taking a look at both of those proposals, an analysis was done to see which was more advantageous to the RM, because one offers a set price per month and plus a fuel surcharge, and the fuel surcharge is based on the pricing of the fuel, and a certain surcharge considered fuel prices have been somewhat volatile. And so we did some quick analysis, and then while the second one offers it by the hour, at a minimum of 8 hours per event, so which turns into about $400 for snow clearing per event. And along with 2 hours minimum per event for ice melt application, as well as it has additional cost for snowfall when it increases. So did a generic analysis, a general analysis, sorry, not a generic analysis, general analysis, and took a look at how many snow days are we getting in a given year. And so there are many snow days in a given year, 55 snow days in a year, but not all of those days would constitute requiring shoveling work. Even dividing it at 50% to 27.7 days, it would still be a better option to go with Gellers. Even if we went to a lower amount and took a look at snow days, say 19 days per year that were above, as I recall, was above, greater than at least 0.2 centimeters. And so those ones, sometimes when it's greater than 0.2 centimeters, it's usually quite a bit more as opposed to just light dusting. And those would be 19 days in Selkirk, yet in Winnipeg, that's something around 53. So taking a look at that, even at 19 days, it still turns out to be a better deal to be on a cost certainty with Gellers. So what we're recommending is to proceed and move with the better bid, which is through cost certainty, is to continue to use Gellers Enterprise for the annual cost of $5,250 plus the fuel surcharge.
Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
So we're gonna, this was based on And again, even though Winnipeg's got higher numbers, we're gonna base it off that, even though Selkirk's right across the river. Like, the difference in
No,
centimeters.
in this one, that's why I did the second, that's why we did the second analysis based on the Selkirk numbers.
Okay,
And the first analysis was the only numbers available
So it'll be here.
are for Winnipeg.
okay,
And so the first number was a little higher at 20, went to 50%, so it went to 27 days. And the second number is lower at 19 days, so applying both 19 days. And remember, we're gonna need ice melt as well as sidewalk shoveling in a minimum of 4 hours. So it turns out even in 19 days, we're not really saving any money. And if we did anything like last year, the number of snowfall events, that could, on a per hour basis, it could be very significant. And right now, the weather prediction is that
Same
it's
as
the
last
same as last year.
Counselor Spicer.
Okay, so clarification question. I'm assuming that they come and check and they make a determination when they clean. So my question then becomes, do we have the ability to phone them to come? Because we have a freezing rain warning, for example. right?
We have had the ability to call them, and we have called them several times,
Okay, so
as I
that's,
recall.
that's,
And they give us priority, morning service before 8 AM, because they know
Okay.
we're open.
good, I just wanted to make sure we have
Yes.
that option.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, go ahead, or?
Just a further clarification, and Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we had some snowfall events past the timeline, they did say they'd come in and then we paid them extra for that.
We did, there was a
Yeah.
couple.
So as an example, this contract is from, what is it, November to March, is it?
October to April or?
Till April, and so if we had some large snow events in March, like we did last year, then we quote them, they come in and then we pay a little bit extra for that.
But it's the event till, it goes till April.
Or sorry, in May.
Oh, okay.
Okay, if we have a resolution, and if you could read it
Or-
for us, please.
Yeah. Resolve CIB authorized to accept the service proposal of Gellers Enterprises at an annual cost of $5,250 plus taxes and fuel surcharge to provide snow clearing services for the municipal office walkways, entrances, and wheelchair access.
Moved by Counselor Horvis, second, Counselor Spicer, any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question, all those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. The next item we have is engineering services for a DFA claim. Lisa?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you know, we've made several, considerable DFA claims, but some of the larger ones, the 5 major sites so far have been approved, and I've already communicated with council the 5 sites that we had been approved, and these are the larger projects of Road 89 slope failure, Ashfield Road slope failure, Ludwig Road slope failure, Old Henderson North Bridge ditch erosion, and the Old Henderson South Bridge ditch erosion. And so all of those projects are coming in at a significant cost. Along with that, as part of this, Public Works Manager and I have been having some discussions on how to best proceed with this. And we have to take into consideration, part of the challenge is the DFA claims that we're making are also being made in Alexander, in Broken Egg, in St. Andrews, throughout this entire area. And so time is important to be able to get out and start doing our tendering to get the best price possible to be able to get this work done. And so it was felt that we could utilize Stantec as our engineering consultant for this project. Now that would be doing it as a sole sourcing to go to Stantec, and there was a cost estimate of those 5 sites at $371,220 to utilize Stantec. Now, as part of that, we did look into what's the implications of going into sole source, and how does that apply to the council policy? So in taking a look at our council policy, first of all, we'd be hiring the engineering firm and the project manager that the RM has already worked with in the past. Then we worked with them already on Ludwig on previous DFA claims, and that's provided good service for us, as well as knows how to work well with our contractors that sometimes we get as our bidders for these projects. And looking at that, we took a look at the overall pricing scheme and then took a look at the policy. Now, in our policy, it says for goods and services over $100,000, a tender process shall be used to purchase of goods and services which would normally include these types as per the threshold value, and it identifies the MASH requirements for trade and for tendering that's been used in the past. And when it's impractical, we could apply for 3 quotations. Now that's what's been recommended, but it does have one additional component which says, as per Appendix L1 of the Annex exemptions include, so it allows for exemptions for professional services such as for legislative or regulation to provide only for licensed professionals such as engineers, land surveyors, architects, accountants, and lawyers. So in those cases, the RM, so this is our policy that's been established. Now, looking at that policy, this falls under engineering. In addition to that, what we did was we also contacted the province of Manitoba and said, since these are DFA claims, is there any concerns if we go and select our engineer in advance? They expect us to be tendering for the DFA claims for sure for the work, but they said they're not concerned about the engineering services because they understand the impact that's going to happen all throughout the southern part of Manitoba with the flood claims that have been occurring. So that was the comment from them. We looked at the policy, we said it makes sense with the policy. In addition to that, also went to our legal. And so our legal came back with a very interesting comments and wanted to read that for you. So if you wouldn't mind, I'll read out the entire letter, the email from legal, and since we just received it last night, I thought I did have a chance to put it on the agenda. And so, and it says, and we contacted our legal representative, which is Greg Tremblay, thank you. So Greg Tremblay, he says, I've reviewed the attached decision paper recommending hiring Stantec to complete the engineering services work required for carrying out the remedial work and hiring Stantec. So I'm just going to paraphrase because I don't want to read an entire legal opinion for this. He said that, yes, the MASH was what was the requirement, but since then, a new act has been developed, and that is the kind of trade agreement that was in 2017, and that requires, and in that agreement of 2017, it eliminated the exemption. Although our policy does state that we're following MASH, and it eliminated that. So normally, under this situation, the threshold would have been $121,000, and then it would require a public tendering after that. But that's where he says it got a little interesting. The situation is the province of Manitoba has never signed on to that agreement. And so the MASH still applies. And our policy still applies to the MASH. So he says on a strictly policy and the basis that the Manitoba government, since this is going to be working in Manitoba, it does comply as per the policy. So as per follow this policy, and remember this policy has been written as of 2010. And so Greg is saying we are, based on our decision paper and based on the information at hand, he's suggesting that it is defensible.
Okay, so
Makes
there's
sense.
a couple of questions here. So go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
I have 2 questions. Remind me what the estimated value of expense is going to be on these 5 sites?
465,
371.
465.
No,
No.
for the cost to fix them.
$5 million.
Oh, okay.
So,
Approximately.
Not the engineering fee,
The
whole-
total cost, I
total
think,
cost.
is
So-
over
so-
$5 million.
yeah.
I can't remember the exact.
Yeah, because Road 89
get it.
is 3 point something or
And
whatever.
100,000, you don't have to go to tender, right? Of the
Correct.
engineer cost. So why don't they just split the
So-
5 up?
what's the typical cost of engineering on these types of works, percentage wise?
10 to 15%.
Okay, we're at 7.42%.
Yes, so we are below. It is a competitive price. Greg feels it's a competitive price, I feel it's a good competitive price, it's not. But, and to answer the other question, yes, you could split it into $100,000 increments,
Just to see why
but
you-
it would be challenged by us legally, and because what you're doing is just, you know that you're already hiring them for all 5. And so it would be something that I would recommend. So I think this way, this is the best method. We've reviewed it through our policy. We've had the discussions with the province of Manitoba, and we've had our legal look at it.
Yep.
And it all falls within
Yep.
that council has the authority to be able to grant it. And so we're bringing it back to council, that we have a policy that was established by council, and we're still within that policy. And as Councillor Spicer's further alluded to, or more than alluded to, is that there is a significant savings
Yeah.
on utilizing this corporation.
More than fair, especially when when our legal at the very end says that what we're doing is perfectly fine.
And Greg wants these guys because he likes working with them, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Well, we've
Yes.
got a working history with them that's
Yes.
gone well.
Scott, did you have
No,
something
I'm
else? You're
good.
good? Anybody else have any
Okay.
questions or comments?
All good.
Okay, I believe there is probably a resolution.
Yes, there is. Resolved, council accept the recommendation of the Public Works Manager authorizing the CA to award the engineering to complete the 5 DFA approved sites to Stantec Consulting based on a proposal submitted for an estimated cost of $371,220 plus GST.
Ken, move please. Counselor Horbus, second. Counselor Spicer, discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. Okay, so we are down to the sewer curb stop connection tender.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Turn it over to Deepak.
So, as you know, we've been working hard at trying to get the sewer curb stops connections complete this year. Our first tender that went out, we received 1 bidder, and the challenge was it was well above our planned budget, and one of the main reasons why we didn't get many of the other bidders was because of the timing that was required to try to get this work done. We know that this year has created some significant challenges for us due to weather for completing of the project, when we were hoping to go out to tender in the early fall, late summer. And so we changed the requirements of the tender to begin in the spring of next year. And we received a total of 6 bids based on that. Those 6 submissions came in at a much more reasonable and a much more competitive process. The 6 bids have been identified in here as was advertised, and we are recommending to go with the lowest bid contractor. This will still allow for us to do some emergency-based connections as they are needed, and we'll set up a process for those, but most of the work will get started afterwards. You know, as a further note, I need to let you know that we are looking at completing sometime in November, and so the sewer lines will be connected, and the challenge is that trying to get the work started before it gets before it frees up to be able to start doing some of this work, and so we'll see what we can get done in between if there's an opportunity for emergency requirements, but what we are recommending to go is to do this in the future. Now, I did talk to you about 53 connections, but what we did was we listed 48 based on some connections made Some people may drop out or not drop out, so it's based on an average price. The average price on this comes in slightly higher than what was expected, as we've communicated to the public, that we're looking at approximately about $8,421.11 per connection. That's an average connection, because sometimes you have to be on, depending on which side of Henderson Highway you are on. And so some are more expensive, some are less, because you have to go under Henderson Highway. Now, the pricing, of course, would be based on that addition. So this would be the actual cost for anybody paying, our cost for the people that are paying upfront. So the $14,303, the pre-purchase price, that was determined, that would be $8,000 would be coming out of that. Now, for establishing the local improvement district, now we have the number, now we can start looking at advertising for the local improvement district. Of course, the local improvement district requires some further dialogue and discussion with council, because it requires for calculating total costs. That's including any engineering and any additional costs that go along with it. We had communicated to the general public that the pre-purchase price was $14,303, which was estimated at $7,000 per connection and about $7,300 for the installation of the curb stop. Now, understanding that sometimes it goes higher and lower, and that was our estimate. Obviously, those people will get an advantage by paying cash up front. But we also communicated at that time that we anticipated that it might be about $2,000 more, because we are expecting, due to COVID and all the other construction inflation, that it could be as much as $16,000 if we were doing it as an LID, but it would be spread over 20 years. Most people understood that, and many people have still signed up understanding it. I think we're going to still be able to stay within that if we consider $7,000 for connection and then $8,400 with maybe some additional cost for engineering. Once we know the total number of connections, we'll have a better idea, and that's what we'll be advertising as part of our LID. So our next step will be, once council approves this, we'll move forward on doing the public hearings and public discussions on the LID with our public.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer, and then Councillor Bazarowicz.
Yeah, I agree, we will need to have a couple discussions, because this is a unit price contract, which means that your 8,400 connection is an estimate.
Correct.
So there'll have to be that discussion. The other discussion I think that will have to take place is typically with an LID, you give people an option to pay up front, and we'll have to decide what that number will be. So there is still a few things up in the air here.
Correct, that's for the LID portion. But what we're awarding the contract is based on the ones that are already prepaid. So we can award this contract right now, and those will be additional unit price analysis based on all those LIDs. And that becomes part of that public consultation.
But unless you have given them the exact amount of who needs to go under the highway and who doesn't, it's an estimate. And maybe you guys did. I don't know the answer to that.
It's an estimate at this point
So-
for awarding the contract to the lowest bidder. Then there will be a much more detailed calculations for all the LIDs, because we have to provide that as part of the LID.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Bazarowicz.
Do we have much in the way of requests for emergencies?
There's been one or two that have identified, but that's in their own perception that they feel. We haven't received anything from the provincial government, from conservation, saying that it must be done. And then there are other options available that we can take a look at, trying to figure something out. Some people just may have to do pump outs for a short period of time, those kinds of scenarios.
Councillor Boulanger and then Councillor Strang.
I think the LID is always a good idea, because not only does it spread it out over 20 years, but it goes with the property. So if someone was to sell you would just go with the new loader. And I think that's the advantage to LID, is that you get to spread that number over 20 years, which brings it down much more palatable.
Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
This is great information, and I think we just need to update the residents of the area, because there's a lot of them there that haven't had any information since we had that meeting at the fire hall. And I have heard, even though I'm not door knocking, I have had calls that people are asking, like, what's going on with sewer and that. So I just think that even in our newsletter, just to have a little blurb out there all the time of updates all the time on it.
Our plan is, now that once we're able to award this contract, if council awards it today, then I'll be working on a script that will be written out, and then our leader will be sending out to all those people that have signed up already, and then we can do a blurb, a general blurb, and then we'll start developing a communication plan for everybody. But everybody that signed up and said, I'm interested in LID, or I'm interested in right now, can be all informed. This is when we're starting the work for the ones that have already paid in front, and this is how we're going to get through the LID.
I think they're asking right now because just for the information at our meeting, our timeline was different. And I know things have changed. Not going to use the word COVID, but you know what? That's what gets thrown out there all the time. There's a shortage, and I know that there's going on in other municipalities too, that there are a shortage of workers right now. So things have delayed us and some of the supplies. But I just think our residents just need to know that too.
Yes, definitely. We'll be working on that, and I just didn't have a proper answers to be able to give. Part of our biggest challenge was weather, more than even COVID. Weather delayed for 2.5 months. They were just unable to dig.
Go ahead, Councillor
As
Bazarovich.
Sandra was saying, our timeline has changed, so we included in our newsletter what the original numbers were and how much they're saving now. With the new numbers, the 84 as opposed to what the previous tender was, like that's one of the reasons I backed up the tender.
Yes, one of the reasons it got backed up was the tender, but that's only by a few weeks. The biggest challenge was to be able to, we couldn't do the hookups until we were able to go out to do a tender. Couldn't do the tender until we were confident when the construction was going to complete, because if the construction wasn't going to complete when we awarded the tender, we had to have a timeline when the tender could start. And the original tender went to start as soon as possible once we were confident of completion. We were looking at starting sometime in November. And that's when the tender came back with saying, because of lack of resources and because of short timelines, most wouldn't even bid, and the other ones the one that bid identified the risk and increased the tender price dramatically.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Should we include what that price was and what it is at present, or?
Not at this point, because we canceled that tender and we can't really,
Okay. No, that's cool.
I can say it's significantly higher.
Yeah, no, that's.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Do we have a resolution for this decision paper?
Yes, we do. Okay, the wrong button again. Resolved, council accept the recommendation of the Public Works Manager authorizing CA to award the sewer curb stop connection tender to Southwood Ventures, Inc. for an estimated cost of $404,213.48 plus GST. Actual cost will depend on the number of connections and types installed.
Can I have the mover, please? Councillor Spicer, Councillor Strang seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. Okay, so 6.5 is the GFL contract for the curbside, no, not curbside, it's for the moving of the garbage from the transfers to the landfill?
Correct, Madam Mayor. It's moving it's taking, hauling from the transfer stations to the landfill, and we've been using GFL. It's a 4-year contract. that started in 2019 and will be ending on October 31st, 2023. As part of this year, they've come back to ask for an increase. Now, previously, the contract accommodated for a 5% per year increase, but they have been applying basically 2% increase per year, which had been granted because it was within the contract. And that's what's occurred for the last 2 years. Now, what they're asking for is due to fuel surcharge, fuel costs, they are asking for a 15% increase for the hauling cost this year. That's about 10% higher than the contract for the 1 year would allow. But taking into consideration that we did save some 3% per year in the previous years, what we're looking at is that it is a reasonable amount. Greg did identify that originally when this contract was signed, gas was at $1.21 per liter, and now it's gone up as high as $2.05. So that has increased. They've pointed fuel increases as the 50% increase in their costs. And so this is 10% above the applicable rate, but for sure 5% increase would have applied. And overall, for the previous 2 years, they only increased by 2% per year. So we've got 6% savings that we had from the previous 2 years. And so what we're really looking at is a 4% increase, which basically translates to approximately $7,900, or sorry, total of $10,000 and $10,650 for a total increase. But that 10% would only be $7,900 of that from the 15%, if you can follow my logic here.
I think a whiteboard would be nice.
So they can just
A
So
smart board.
basically we feel that this can be absorbed in our current public works budget, and we feel it's a reasonable amount.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
I'm just trying to remember correctly. So this is done on special service levy, correct?
No,
Not this one?
not this one.
Okay,
This is for the transfer
this
stations.
is just transfer stations. Okay, so there's
So
no
it's not
problem.
it's not a very large contract.
There's no problem with
Yeah.
that. Okay, perfect, thanks.
Anyone else? Questions? Go ahead, Councillor Strain.
Is there room to negotiate on this? I just remember Councillor Horvath saying that not everybody, like, we don't have to give the extra for the gas levy, for the gas price increases, but I respect them coming forward asking for it, but
This is the negotiated
this
price.
is soon, okay.
So that's 15% just for fuel, and that's not counting inflation.
Correct.
But I
It's
think-
only 10% for fuel.
Yeah, I think what
They cover
Deepak,
for the inflation of the 5%.
Well, they're only contracted to raise it 5% legally, right?
Yes.
And we're just doing this out of goodwill
Correct.
because of the relationship that we have.
Correct.
Because when Greg was here, that's kind of what he indicated.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then is this the one that's gonna be maybe extended, or is that the other?
That's the other one.
the other one.
Yeah.
It can also be extended, but that can be determined at that time when the contract is over next year.
but I think Deepak tried to explain this was, they were allowed 5% per year in the contract that we signed, and they only did 3 years of 2, so that's 6%. So in a way, they were allowed 20%, so really we're out 1%.
Well, not really.
Well,
I mean, you could look at it that way, but
we actually.
if I say I'm gonna charge you 5%, up to I can charge you, and I only charge you 2 because that's what it's allotted for, and if I forget about it, which seems like they did, I mean, you can't come back and say I want 10 now if you only sign a contract for 5.
But then the other side is if you can figure out the interest that we've made saving on the 3% that they didn't ask for, it's even lower.
Oh my God, you could break this apart.
Anybody else have?
Contract-wise,
They're allowed
It's
only
not-
5%.
It's not right, but I see where he's going with this because of the
Yeah.
relationship in that, but contract wise, it's
I
not right.
understand what you're saying. I'm there with you.
Anybody else, any questions, comments? Do we have a resolution to move forward on this one?
Resolve council accept the recommendations of the Public Works Manager accepting GFL contract price increase by an additional 10% fuel charge for all refuse and recycling hauls beginning October 1st, 2022 until the end of the existing agreement, October 31st, 2023.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Horwath, second. Councillor Sutherland, any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, so that brings us down to number 7 on our agenda, which is the accounts and financial statements. So we have the closed list of accounts.
So the resolution, Madam Mayor, for that is resolve council approve the October 18th, 2022 list of accounts, check numbers 22002263 to 22002499 in the amount of $691,684.39 for payment.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowa, second. Second.
Council Sutherland?
Councillor Sutherland, any discussion, questions, comments on any of the accounts? Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
I did have one, I'm just looking at the number, but it was for our front steps, that there was a charge on here. Did we get any warranty work done on that? It was for
Yes, we did.
Sierra?
Yeah.
So why,
There was some additional work we also paid for. The siding wasn't done, so we said we'd come in and finish it up because it just made it look better. And it was all within budgets because we originally
so
budgeted.
yeah, I didn't come in the front entrance, but they did do the.
They did
Okay,
do it.
perfect.
And
That was my
very good
concern, I
shape.
thought we're paying and there was some warranty work to get done on it,
Yes,
so.
they took
okay.
care of the warranty work and it's been done. We may double check on it. We'll know after this winter if well it works. We've had residents also show up, talk about the comments, how well they look, as well as somebody already took a list, the name of the company and was wanting to do it to their place as well.
Thank you very
And
much.
there is another public building in East Selkirk here that already has had that done. When they looked at ours, they got them to come in and do the steps there too, so. The church. Yeah. So,
Thank you very much.
okay, so, we have a mover, we have a seconder. So if there are no further comments or questions, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, financial statement.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The financial statements, these are the unaudited financial statements because we're looking at the financial statements as per this year because we have to do some adjustments based on the audit of 2020, which is the next item. I've also asked Shannon to come down and we can speak to any of the questions you may have. But basically, the audit has been completed and there were several adjustments, and I've provided the documentation to you as part of the in-camera documentation that talks about what were some of the audit statements. Now, I'll come to that in a minute. So as part of the preliminary audit statements, we have the related information as per our capital funds and our overall operating. And when we take a look at this, what you'll notice in here is that there is a significant amount of difference between what was budgeted and what's actually the surplus or the deficit for this. And the reason why such a large surplus is showing up at this moment is much of our major road works projects had been started late due to the weather issues. And so a lot of those bills haven't been processed. So a September reading just doesn't give us the numbers that we would be looking at, saying this is going to give us a better indication. As far as I can tell from some of the costs, especially flood-related costs, where we were thinking we were going stay within budget. They look like we're going to be able to stay within budget. And we'll have a nominal surplus this year, maybe from all our accounts, but not of any significance that we saw in the last 2 years. A lot of that has to do with, we did take on a significant amount of costs due to flood-related issues this year, just for staff and equipment purchases. We had to bring in dozers, rental dozers to be snow clearing. We've had to bring in more people to help with snow clearing itself, as well as we had additional expenses related with gravel and fixing roads and gravel roads due to overland flooding and those kinds of things that we had. But we are looking at a good management of the funds again for this year.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Would we not have a receivable through DFA for a lot of those costs that you just mentioned regarding the flood?
Hopefully, but that we'll find out. We still haven't
Yeah,
gotten
you
the
don't-
answer on it. We
You
don't,
can't
and
put
so we
it in
can't.
because you don't know if they've
Exactly.
accepted it.
And so we may not find that out till next year, so it would show up as next year's surplus. And that's the same situation that happened in the 2021 and 2022 audit, because we received the funding in 2021, but it was really for work in 2020, so the auditor moved it back.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I have one here, and I don't know, I guess I just noticed that this is a little bit different. Is this a different, I'm looking 7.2, the first item, the preliminary unaudited. Is that different than what we used to get? Because I don't remember that wording before.
No, I asked for, I said, just, let's see if we can, normally our finance officer would go through details based on previous numbers and verify, but the 2021 numbers are gonna change slightly, and she has to do those. So those audit adjustments, because of the 2020 audit, there was time needed, but I wanted to make sure council at least had the preliminary numbers in advance. And that's why it's shown as a preliminary document for council to review, so that you know what's happening, but the actual financial statement will come in for the next council meeting.
But there's no shell game here this
No.
time. There's no taking money from here to make this balance.
No,
There's surplus here now.
correct,
It's real.
yes.
It's real. Yeah.
No baskets?
No baskets. No fictional numbers.
There's baskets, it's just,
They're full.
no, yeah,
3 bags full.
thank you.
Okay, so where do you want to start, Deepak?
We'll finish off with for financial statements, then we'll go to the audit statements.
Okay.
So, resolve the financial statements dated September 30th be accepted as presented.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, second. Councillor Spicer, discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried.
Okay, so we have the draft financial state year end from the auditor, who's completed it, as well as he's given us his representation letter for council and for the client. And it basically goes through with their statements, and they've made some recommended adjustments as part of this entire process. So I wanted to go through those various adjustments, and then what we will be, if council passes this today, then what we'll do is I will receive the final audited statements from him that we can sign off on. Yes, there are concerns. Council has certainly made it very clear to me in several discussions on us catching up on our audits, and Shannon and I are having a meeting with our auditor to determine what we can do to streamline so that 2021 can be complete still for the end of this year, so that we can then move forward to doing the 2022 audit at its regular interval. There has been some challenges. There's been there's been challenges on our ability to get some of the information in the auditor, but also there's been a significant amount of challenges on the part that they brought in some new staff, and having to go through all of our processes and going through 2018, 19, and 20. That's where we sit today. We feel that we've gotten it streamlined to the point that we can make it work, but it's been a challenge. And we'll be having that discussion with the auditor. Sorry for
No, sorry, I didn't want to.
Did you have something, Rob? Go ahead.
And I get that at times when we can't find things for them and they're asking asking and they're waiting, I get that, but, and I know we like working with an auditor that knows us and knows the familiarity of stuff. And when I say, can we stress to them, it's only as much as what it's worth when we do. I mean, they could say, yeah, and do we tell the auditors at the beginning of the year, like something like, we just, like, there's been some delays in the past, and we want to somewhat be assured that
Right.
there's going to be more of a quicker turnaround, because they're busy, and they take on all kinds of clients, and we're one of those clients. So what I'm getting at, these delays and these backlogs of us getting our audited statements, I mean, we're paying them good money, and yet we're waiting, and yet I'd say, like, yes, they're waiting on some of our stuff, but
It was, yes, definitely on both sides, you know, and definitely after the 2019 audit, when it was delayed and then 2020 came, and once COVID hit, it had an impact on the auditor as well as doing all the other audits. And by the time they started looking at ours, he said it was in the middle of all these other audits, so now we fell to the back of the line. In 2021, had some discussions with the auditor and said, look, we need to get going on this, we can't go on this. I asked for a commitment from additional staffing, and I said even look at it from other sources to come and work. At the end of the day, that didn't work out the way that we had anticipated, and that's why I'm having the next meeting now and saying, okay, what have we learned from that? Now you're a new person that's come in here that's doing this work, clearly understands all our books and everything better. So where are the shortfalls? What can we do to fix this so that we can get this done
yes.
in a much shorter period of time, and to have that face-to-face. This will be my first time since starting here to have a proper face-to-face with the auditor, because we haven't been able to do those.
Didn't we change an auditor when we first? I
When we
remember back
first-
up- Yeah,
When
first
we
election.
first elect.
We
got
used
elected.
somebody else and then we brought somebody new in, right?
That's this
exchange group who was brought in.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that.
Go ahead, Councillor Bassar, sorry you had your hand up.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna mention that, in the past, we said we'd switch up auditors from time to time. I don't know how many years we can go with, 1, 3, 4, but whatever you're saying, that's accurate.
Well, we did have the same auditor for a number of years, like eons.
And
Years
we were
and
doing a
years
good
and
job,
years and
right?
years.
Or something, that's why we changed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We were dragging it up, that's why we changed.
So,
If I remember
Anyways.
correctly.
So didn't we get a huge amount of money back that got lost or something from them too?
I think so. I
Yeah.
can't quite remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, go ahead, please, Deepak.
Okay, so this year, you know, this audit, the big issue is that they're asking us to move about $3 million in surplus in 2021 to 2020, but it's all accounted for. At the end of the day, the real balance is that there's an extra savings of, we found an extra $100,000 that we recommended and we put it into the fire reserve. And there'll be another $83,000 of the 2022 or 2020 that was presented to council of $83,000 that we're going to keep in the nominal surplus, and then we can keep managing of the nominal surplus as well. So that $3 million really translates to talk about it. First is the accrual that was the second payment was received in 2021 where it was recorded, but they said no, it was really related to 2020, although we received it, the cash received in 2021, so it's been moved to 2020. The other was these grants that we received. So the project started, the announcements were made in the previous year, 2020, but we didn't receive the money until 2021. So we accounted for them in 2021 when we received the dollars, but the auditor says, no, put those back into 2020. That's where we like to see it. No big deal either way. We put those into 2020. They still go into the proper accounts, and then they filter out at the end. So that was the $810,000 for the climate resiliency, as well as for a nominal amount of $7,000 for their green team, as well as the South St. Clements. There was some grants received in 2021, but because of the request, they wanted the $30,000 moved over. And those relate directly with where we go in and then we do the transfer to the funding into the appropriate reserves $3,810,000 and $30,000, so basically as a wash. The other was, we didn't have the amounts in 2020 for the trade-ins and for the amortization related with those. That's something we're going to get further analysis done as to why there's a concern there, so they just asked us to move some money from 21 to 2020, as well as there was a correction for an entry that was done for $12,000. Generally speaking, compare the difference between our adjusted trial balance and what the auditor has submitted is $92.69 on the overall budget. That's the real difference. And so all this documentation is provided for you in the in-camera session for it. But if you have any questions, I've got Shannon here to also answer some of those if you have any of those specific items. Would you like me to go through each one of them? Or?
No, I was wondering where the list was, but it's in the in-camera, it's not in the other parts, so.
I'll make it better for you.
That's my fault by working at home. Sorry?
I like it better if we look it over when we have questions.
Yes, if you have questions,
Yeah.
definitely I can set up a meeting individually or at the next meeting.
Will you pass those up to them?
This is available in the in-camera. I can certainly print
The
it.
other ones there, that you said.
These ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in here already. Okay, so if you're comfortable with that, we can pass the audit and then start moving on to the 2021.
Yep.
Okay, resolve that December 31st, 2020 audited financial statements be adopted as presented.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Spicer, Counselor Horvath seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Okay,
Okay, so 7.3.
thank you.
So Madam Mayor, on this one, we have a bit of a unique situation. This is a assessment provided an adjustment, and I think the house burnt down.
Correct.
And so the house burnt down and for some reason, assessment didn't update their records appropriately, and they continued to assess it based on the house still existing on that property. They did identify for them last year, but they didn't make the change from last year, which was that the house no longer existed. And so we were obligated, based on the assessment, to be able to do the taxes based on that. And for those 2 years, which is all we can sort of deal with at this point, can't go back all those other years, but there were penalties being charged because the owners of the property already knew they were dealing with the assessment department and were going to correct this. So they were not paying their full payment, but there were penalties being charged because of the amount outstanding. In reviewing this, and now that the assessment department has gone back and corrected it all, we've done the review and we're looking at those penalty fees should not be charged. And as per our policy, they can be seen as an error. Well, whether it's an error by us or by the assessment department, it is an error. And what we're recommending is the refunding of all those, elimination of those penalty fees from them. The total amount of that elimination is $3,763.87.
Go ahead, Counselor Spicer.
So it's only penalties we're writing off, because really the other thing should be done through addition or reduction of taxes, right?
Correct.
Go ahead, Counselor.
Right, Jeff?
Paul. Yes.
I can appreciate where they're coming from, because I went through the same thing. And they were quite late on knowing. I made sure that I informed them what happened, so I can see this really happening for what really happened. Right, quote it. In that assessment made an error.
Yeah. Anything else? Anybody else? I think there is a resolution. But, so you're saying that that $3,700 is all penalties?
Yes, built over 2 years, 1.some%. They were holding off on paying their taxes, and they shouldn't be. But the problem was they couldn't pay those. They didn't. And I don't blame them, they weren't gonna go and pay all this exorbitant amount of taxes on a house that no longer existed. And so they were waiting for this resolution. While they're waiting for the resolution, we have no obligation other than with the way the act is written. We're going in there and applying penalty fees.
Yeah, you have to go by the assessment that we get.
Right, right. No, I get all that. It's just that to me, $3,700 in penalties is a lot of penalties.
That
That's
just
why
goes,
I asked the question I asked.
Like, that's a
That's a big
lot,
number.
that's right, that's a lot of penalties.
What percentage of interest is that?
Well, it's 1.25, yeah, well.
Per month.
Per month,
Yeah.
1.25 a month, so,
But the credit card,
Credit card, exactly.
yeah, so, wow.
lots of juice.
Okay,
That's why the first bill is always to pay off your taxes.
that's right.
Okay, so in relation to this, whereas Manitoba Assessment has issued a request to reduce and otherwise amend prior values from roll number 500350 and subsequent penalties incurred are incorrect, be it resolved that penalties in the amount of $3,763.87 be hereby canceled for roll number 500-350.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Bazarowicz, Counselor Sutherland seconds. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Shannon and Mike. So, on the administrative comments, this is the Ben Harris, sorry, Madam Mayor.
That's okay, go ahead, go ahead. I was looking at something else.
So, for grants, this is for the Ben Harris Memorial Music Show. We did have a discussion with this with council
Yeah.
because of the timing related with this, and we're bringing forward the resolution to approve it. What they were given was $500 cash, as well as we gave some things for the draw itself in kind, and as part of that, what we're bringing forward a resolution. The challenge we had was that they didn't have a way of receiving the funds any other way other than through the GoFundMe, which is a bit unusual, so I wanted to make sure council was aware of it, so we brought it forward as a council resolution identifying as such. Also, you should know is that Arma St. Andrews, as I mentioned earlier, have donated $2,000 towards this event and also did it through the GoFundMe. So it's not that unusual, it's still unusual.
Yeah, he is.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so this is a resolution forward related to that, so the resolution is resolved, council approve the following 2022 requested grant budget for the Ben Harris Memorial Music Show 2022, $500, and further be it resolved, payment was made through the Ben Harris Memorial GoFundMe page.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Melange, second. Counselor Horbis, any discussion? Go ahead, Counselor Strang.
Does anybody know what was actually raised for, like, what the result was?
Didn't hear. Heather, did you maybe check the GoFundMe or anything?
I never checked, but I can do that.
Just curious.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I know it does go back to it'll go back into the community, so it is something that's recirculated, but.
Yeah. Okay, I have a mover, I have a seconder. If there is no further questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. And then item 7.5, the Gaynor Family Library.
I do understand that this has already been approved previously, that we would continue to support them, but the request has come in, so I felt it was important to just bring it forward, which is for $7,000 towards the Building Capital Reserve Fund. So a multi-year commitment was made, it's just the request is coming forward, just want to follow through with the proper resolution.
Okay, any questions, comments? You have a resolution there for that one?
Resolved, council authorizes $7,000 to the Gaynor Family Regional Library, which represents the third installment of Building Capital Reserve Fund.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Spicer, second. Counselor Sutherland. Any further questions? All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried.
So 3 people give that money? St. Andrews, St. Clements, and Salton?
Yeah.
There was some talk, I think, of Denard becoming a member. I don't know if it ever happened.
I don't know.
I don't think they were one of the original members, it was just the 3 that they.
The 3 were
The
the
three
original,
were
but I remember
original,
that
yeah.
Denard was requesting in the past. I don't know if it ever happened.
3 that own the building.
That's another story for another day.
Yeah. Okay, it doesn't appear that we have any bylaws on for today, so we're moved down to communications for information. And I'm not sure if there's anything that, Deepak, you want to touch on there?
The new quarterly statistics, of course, from RCMP are available there. Nothing of specific that I had.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Strang.
Another part of information getting out to our residents is I have had being questioned on being on the Facebook page. They have down in Merrill and surrounding area, and I just mentioned to them that I'm not on there, and I guess that they did post on there if there is strange activity going on or if someone's been broken into. And this gentleman that did call me said that he is on with the RCMP. He gets all the information. I don't know if it's the same one that we get the emails, but he had asked if on our Facebook page or on our website if we can have the quarterly report that's pertaining to St. Clements, just to give our residents information. So I said I'd bring it to council.
It's up to council, we can certainly do it.
I just thought it's more communication getting up there to residents, so activity in our area, in our municipality.
Is there kind of I guess on the Facebook page, I was gonna say, could it not be kind of a part of our monthly, well, not monthly newsletter, but part of our newsletter when we have it the next month? But that's not getting to everybody anyways. You know, there will be people that are on the Facebook page that perhaps don't get our monthly newsletter.
And then he just asked if we could have it as a posting for just our municipality information that when there is activity, so.
Right, but is he, I guess was the request that it be put on our Facebook page so that they could read it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I misunderstood when he first said it, so.
Yeah, well, he is on those other ones and asked me if I am, and I said no. So he said if they could, because he's never been on those either, but he noticed that they do post of different activities going on, whether it's in the south or up in Grand Marais area. Anyways, just a request from a resident.
Yeah. Anything else under the communications for information that anybody wants to bring forward? Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
Just 9.4.1, our news release that we're doing tomorrow at 11 a.m. in Lockport. It's just with Peguis and the Red River Basin Commission unveiling our partnership between Red River Operation Cleanup, Red River Basin, and Peguis. Some educational signs that we're going to place throughout the entire watershed along the river. So when people see the signs, they can be reminded not to leave a mess behind, and it's just showing the partnership for the basin, and that the basin truly is under one governance, and it's all our responsibility. So that's tomorrow at 11.
You go?
I thought you
I'll be
had
speaking
it
there,
on
yes.
that.
Oh,
That was an
that's,
addition.
that was an addition, it's my fault. It ended up in information. It should have been in action items because there was an invitation to invite council to the event, and I think we should pass a resolution for council to go to the event.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we should have someone welcoming Councilor Boulanger to Ward 1.
Ward 2.
I bet you do.
Treasure.
It's on the cusp,
Ward
it's on the cusp of
two.
Ward 1 and 2.
Yeah, I thought the way it came through, it was an invitation
It
for
was.
council
It
to
was.
my
attend.
fault,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Okay, so,
That's
I
why I just
think we
wanted
should
to be sure.
change those boundaries.
so we probably will have a resolution come forward. If you want to just read one now, that's fine too.
You'll be there in earnest, Councillor Spicer?
Okay.
Right from the record will be there.
Resolve Mayor Feeble-Corn and council be authorized to attend the Peguis First Nation and Partners Move Towards Stronger Water Governance in Lockport, Manitoba on October 17, 2022.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz, second Councillor
Or
Strang.
sorry, on October 19th.
19.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Okay, moved by Councillor Bazarowicz, second by Councillor Strang. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, anything else that we need a resolution or discussion on before we do our committee reports and move in camera?
Just a small discussion. I actually forgot at the beginning of our meeting, in addition to in camera, if I could, when would you want me or when should I? It's just an email that we got from somebody that I wanted to comment on.
Okay, just put, we'll just call it a resident concern
Okay.
in camera.
Okay.
So,
It's from one of our groups, an email from one of our group, past
Okay.
presidents, okay?
okay. Okay, so council reports, I'm gonna start today with Councillor Spicer.
Okay, so, on October the 3rd, I attended the IERHA Annual General Meeting, and of course it's very similar to many annual meetings that we go to. But they did have, a multitude of reports. We did also bring up the $32 million expansion, which is 30 acute care beds and 3 emergency beds. Just for interest's sake, there's 133,000 people located in the IERHA. So the finance committee, so they have up to March 22 financial statements. They had a deficit of $2.8 million. It was a capital deficit, not an operational one. The CEO gave a report, and it's very interesting that she brought up that there are 3 provincial ministers that deal with health. So it is a big portfolio put into the province. They have many documents that drive their service delivery. There's been an EMS review, quality and learning framework, staff health, truth and reconciliation, senior strategy, wait times, HR, provincial clinical and service plan, service prevention plan, mental health and cancer. They went through some of the challenges they're having, and of course one of them is staffing. But also some of the opportunities. There was question and answer period, and they talked about some challenges at specific sites. Example, Pine Falls has been short on staff. They've been closed in the spring and this fall. They are talking about some kind of a measurement standard to ensure that they're providing better service and sustainable service. And, I think for years, there's been that question out there, well, how do you measure whether an RHA or health itself is doing a good job? So I think that's a step in the right direction.
Would those standards come from government, or would it come from, like, who would establish those standards? It's a government, it's the provincial government that's running the RHA, so, like, who would make those standards?
Well, one of the things they're talking about is having a provincial dashboard,
Okay,
so you would have that access as a resident to look at those statistics. So it's a good step. October the 4th, I attended the boat launch tour, where we did a couple of site inspections. October the 5th, we had St. Andrews Lock and Dam, and that was another update meeting. As you probably have guessed, it's been pushed back for completion. They're talking about the substantial completion in spring of 2023. If you remember before, it was supposed to be this fall. So, I guess it's another winter of going rain. So,
You just got fully.
yeah, I mean, it's nice. Other interesting things that came out of the meeting was, they are up to 8,000 artifacts that have been recovered now.
8,000?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a huge study.
Cool.
Yeah.
And they show 5,000 years of occupation.
Yes, I said 3 last week, it's like,
Yeah.
It's
that's
fun.
crazy.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, we need to get a museum up and running,
It's on its way.
because rather than that all going somewhere else where it shouldn't, we need to keep it in our municipality. Pedestrians will be using the north sidewalk, actually they should be now, because it was October the 15th. They do have some overnight closures coming up. And there was quite an extensive discussion about landscaping. I'll just leave it at that.
Initiated by Councilor Spicer.
He just stirred it. Yeah.
Yeah, actually instigated by a couple of local people, which their points were good, actually, I thought. But, we'll go from there. October the 6th, we had the staff appreciation luncheon, and October the 11th, we had committee of the whole, which we talked about some planning and policy discussions. And that's all my report. If there's any questions,
Any questions for Councilor Spicer?
thank you.
I'll comment on one of his comments in mine.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Bazarowitz.
All I have is, Thursday, October 6th, I attended the R meeting in Headingley. We had Minister Clark. She announced this was going to be her last term. She had 1 year ago, I guess. And our chair, Doug Dabrowski, he's also stepping away from his politics. He's taking another crack at the province. And Frances Snee was another speaker that said she's stepping down. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilor Corbis.
Just a committee of the whole on October the 11th, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you for that. Go ahead, Councilor Sutherland.
Oh, me? Okay.
You're still writing yours up,
No,
are you?
no, I forgot the staff appreciation.
Oh,
I just put that in
okay.
there. Okay. October 4th, right, was the boat launch tour and vehicle safety meeting we had. October 6th, nobody got killed, so I can mention that. If somebody would have got hurt, well, she was hurt very seriously. October 6th, as Glenn said, we attended the ARM meeting. I won't say any more about that, one I already said. October 11th, the committee of the whole meeting. October 12th, I attended one day of the MAR forum, and I forgot the sheet at home. I was all the events on there. I was going to name off some of them, but a couple of points here that the Clean Air Farms presentation is kind of interesting. In Manitoba, 4,700 tons of plastics are taken in, and of that, 70% is recycled. And another point that's for our transfer stations and our landfills, municipal collection is going to be phased out within 2 years, like all the plastics from pesticides, and it's going to be, the collection sites will be the vendors themselves, not the municipalities, and you would take nothing. So I guess it doesn't affect us, but it does as far as the sites, slightly with a big compound and all.
From our dump, where does it go?
There will be nothing coming to.
No, but now, where does it go? When they bring chemical containers there, where does it go now?
It's recycled.
We used to have a truck that get it all up
Yeah.
from site to site,
Yeah.
but I guess that's going away.
A lot of it goes to Selkirk on Greenwood at that chemical recycling plant there on the left-hand side, right, just down Greenwood, right by Highway.
No, I know United.
That's it.
Yeah. That was, Clean Air Farms had that presentation. I didn't, 70% recycled from all the 4,700 tons, and Saskatchewan is more, but that was the tonnage for. But I just found it interesting that, that's going to be phased out, so wherever they buy these fertilizers from, or the pesticides, that'll be that's the drop-off points. It will be. They're hoping to have this done in 2 years. See if that happens. Yeah, as I said, I left the paper at home for all the events up there. But another one, presenter from Banff, what they've done to divert stuff into their landfills with construction and demolition, like the tipping fees. I never thought something like this would work, but it's a great program for them. Your tipping fees, let's say, are $100 a ton. Well, if the stuff is brought in separated, it's substantially lower, like a lot lower. And so a lot of people are they take the time to separate stuff, and then the price is lower. And that's was their talk about diverting stuff into the landfills. And it's a successful program. I would have never thought somebody's going to take the time to divert, separate, but they still works great. So you pay $100 a ton. I forget what the fees were, they varied. I suppose if you have it separated, it was under $50 a ton. Quite a bit under. Should have marked the numbers down. But it works for them.
Go ahead, Rob.
So would that be the difference? I made a comment last week about how when I go to Selkirk, I throw everything in one bin. All garbage and everything, all the recycling's all in one bin, not separated, as opposed to St. Clements at our transfer station. Do we separate everything? We make our resin? Is that what you're talking about, or no?
No. It was for larger
Oh, got it, okay.
quantities coming in.
Okay.
So
Construction.
That program in Banff works great. I found it
Sounds
interesting.
like a successful program.
Successful, I couldn't say that. I have a hard time with words. Oh yeah, and I missed out the staff appreciation at October 6th. Appreciation, I can say that word. I guess that's it.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for that,
You're
Dave.
welcome.
And the
Pardon me?
county.
I said that.
Okay, go
I
ahead,
did say the
Councilor.
comment, I did all.
Go ahead, Councilor Strange.
October 4th, as mentioned, I also went to boat launch site inspection. October 5th, I also attended on Zoom the St. Andrews Lock and Dam update. And Councilor Spicer already spoke about that. October 6th, staff appreciation luncheon, and I think it was very well attended and much appreciated. And October 6th, ARM at the Arm of Headingley And the one other thing that Councillor Mazarich didn't speak about was the gentleman was there from Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries. He also spoke. And in 2023 is going to be 100 years in the liquor business for Manitoba. And they are the biggest supplier of cannabis for Manitoba also. And that's where a lot of their funds come in from. This year they have a $635 million budget. And Bill 42 is coming in, and it is for maximizing services for customers. So they say we're going to see a lot of change, how other provinces have, that we are going to see a lot of change within a lot of the liquor stores. I don't know about cannabis, I never got that for that, but I think for the liquor stores that they're going to bring in, whether it's variety, whether just their different way of sales, probably coming into grocery stores. I don't really know the whole bill, but he said that bill will be introduced. So he says he's very excited about it, and just to be watching for a new bill coming through.
More free sound.
Go ahead, go ahead, Rob.
I don't know, I didn't ask if it was bootleg or legal. I'm presuming legal.
Legal or bootleg.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, just to comment on that, Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries, clearly it's always about profit. And all I can tell you is that, and I don't know how many years ago, but back in the old day, well, I'm gonna say 10 years ago maybe, that's not quite old, but maybe it's further. When you take a liquor permit, one could only get a certain amount of liquor for a certain amount of people there. And often people would bend the rules by keeping some outside and bringing some in, whether you had a social or a wedding or whatever. Nowadays,
Really?
nowadays, and I'm basing this on that organization's profit, they've changed it all in that your permit is carte blanche. You can take out
As
much booze. You could take out, if you had an event for 10 people, you could take out booze for 200. So I just find it ironic that the Liquor and Lotteries changed those rules when Manitoba at one time had the most stringent drinking and driving laws in terms of what percentage the RCMP could bust you on. And that was always touted as a good thing, according to MAD, which is good, right? The Mothers Against Drunk Driving. So our liquor laws were good, curtailing deaths on the road. But then we have Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries saying, oh, that's okay. You want to have a party? You want to party for 50 people? That's okay, get booze for 200. Come on. To me, that's a bit of a line crossing. So they should have left it the way it was, where no, if you're having 50 people, you recommend booze for 50 people, not booze for 200. Anyways, I'm just making a comment on her saying that there's changes, more changes coming. It's all about profit.
Go ahead.
I'd like to add to that too, when they first were proposing the cannabis retail outlets and sites and laws and all that, they said there'd be a site within 20 minutes of each other or whatever. Well, look around, like, there's 4 on some corners. And the guy said that as long as you meet criteria, you can have as many as you want, anywhere you want. There's no restriction whatsoever.
Well, look at our bedroom sitting here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, Bossier's the same thing. We're getting there. Springfield. Pop up everywhere.
There are 197 cannabis stores in Manitoba. 66 of them are rural.
More than Tim Hortons.
That's what I said, expensive.
In relation to the population
No,
What was the total number?
197 cannabis for all of Manitoba, and 66 of them are rural. So with outside the cities of Brandon, any of, I guess, the cities of Brandon.
Yeah.
And there's reasons for
and
that.
Winnipeg and-
You can stay under the radar more when you're rural.
In 2 or 3 years, air miles will be expiring from the liquor stores also. So they'll be revisiting that, as you see that a lot of stores that air miles have go down, so we mentioned that also. And craft beer has taken a big leap, so. Anyways, that was his report there. It was very interesting. And also Eileen Clark spoke at the meeting. Committee of Whole on the 11th, and it was all on planning, possible future planning for our municipality. October 12th, I had a Red River Planning Executive Meeting, and it was just going over our director's evaluation for all the municipalities. And October 12th, that evening, I had a Red River North Tourism networking evening, which I brought back information here. There's a pamphlet of everything that they've done. It was their first time of an in-person get-together, and they have all everything that they've done from October 2021 to September 2022. I'll leave these up there, pass them around. Some of the tours that they have completed and are available. And there was a lot of people there, and quite a few actually from our municipality, whether it was business owners, Lockport Development, the mayor also joined, and our economic development officer was there. And that's everything.
That's it for yourself? Okay, Councilor Boulanger.
October 4th, the Blanc launch viewing, October 6th, staff appreciation, and October 11th, the cow meeting. And just on the comment that Councilor Spicer mentioned on the potential for those artifacts, I'll just make a comment in the camera on that.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, I'm not gonna go over a lot of the ones that were already mentioned, but September the 27th, we had our regular council meeting. October the 1st, I attended the East Saukett Fire Department pancake breakfast and open house. Site inspection for the boat launch I did, St. Andrews Lock and Dam, I was in on that one also. Staff appreciation lunch, our meeting, committee of the whole. The executive committee meeting was to do with some budget items also on the 12th. And the Red River North Tourism Info and Networking meeting, I think Councilor Stride covered that one pretty much. On October the 13th, there was, and I never can remember the proper name, it was the Silica Sand meeting with a number of municipalities that are keeping an eye on it, and I think DPAC will maybe have a little bit more to say on that, so there still could be another pre-hearing meeting, but the Clean Environment Commission hearings are going to be held either late January or early February, and that's about all they could tell us on that. October the 14th, I had a South Basin Mayors and Reeves meeting, and it was via Zoom. It was a relative short meeting. We went through the financials for the South Basin Mayors and Reeves, and I think I've reported previously that we're trying to find a new home for South Basin Mayors and Reeves, and we did find one. So we accepted the financial reports, and then we passed a resolution that all materials and all the information pertaining to the South Basin Mayors and Reeves be transferred to Winnipeg Metro Region. So it's all the materials and all the things for the schools and for the municipalities. It's not getting lost, it's all being transferred, and they're gonna look after it, so.
So it's going to WMR?
Yes.
Now you say, well,
No, not that one. And October the 14th, I attended the START program 20th anniversary in Selkirk, and that was really interesting to listen to. They had a video of some of the people that have gone through that program, and it's not just students, it's families, and then, once the students leave school and perhaps go out on their own, it continues on. So it's a very, very good program, and I brought some information here. I'll leave this here. It was very, very interesting. So there was a number of speakers. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'll start off with my meetings, and then I'll give you a bit of an update on other issues. I attended the Zoom meeting for the IERHA annual general meeting, which has already been mentioned. Also had several meetings on the 4th, 5th, and 6th with developers, as well as we did the boat launch on the 4th, and staff appreciation lunch, which was also discussed on the 6th, and then I had a development help around the Novak area as well. And the other meetings was the committee of the whole on the 11th, and then as well as we had a meeting with Balsam Bay Cemetery, which I can update council on, with the board from Balsam Bay, as well as the Zoom meetings. We had Zoom meetings as well as we had in-person meetings on our water treatment plant and for our sewer lines. The sewer lines is continuing on project. We're expecting it to be done by November, early November. The water treatment plant has been delayed again, and we're looking at sometime in December. And the way it's been going, it could be, the water treatment plant could be going into January. So there are some general challenges. The biggest challenges have been that they've had staffing related issues, definitely. In order to find the proper qualified people, and it's been basically rating Peter to pay Paul. So they're both, there's several of these Manitoba Water Services type projects, and it's the same company, and sometimes they're in one space, but they can't fill the other. It's been back and forth. They are now at their last extension, and after this, they will be being charged on the corporation if they go any further. And the majority of the delays have been delayed due to electrical and some of the workers, because that backs up everybody else. Water treatment plant continues to be on target and as to the budget. So, the wastewater connection are within budget right now, and hopefully we see some savings on the wastewater lines, because Talio has done a pretty good job of managing their costs. There is a request for some increases due to weather and the amount of rocks they found out by Clark Road. They have to do an open dig as opposed to doing directional drilling. But it's being reviewed by the Mountain Water Services Board, and we're reviewing it with our engineers. Along with that, I've had, which I'll update council on, is I had several meetings on Friday as well as on Monday with Winnipeg Metro Region on the daycare projects, and the financial assistance agreement with the province has been reviewed, as well as I'm selected to be on the review committee for the tenders that went out for the construction of the daycares. I can say that we're looking somewhere around, and each building is going to be somewhere around the $3 million plus range to be built. We hand it over. I have to do the analysis now on what our in-kind translates to match that $3 million. We have done that analysis in the past, and now a much more detailed analysis as to the value of service lands and comparison as we're giving 2 acres on this property.
So do we have to match that 3 in kind? Is that?
Yeah, over 15 years. So as an example, we're forgiving the rental fees.
We're gonna have the land and the sewer and water connection.
Yeah, the land, and so the value of the land with the sewer and water connections on it. We're doing the fencing around the site. Landscaping should be done by the contractors.
So that will count as part of.
That's part of it. Then you take a look at our operational costs for the next 15 years, counts as another part. Then you take a look at the rent that we're forgiving for the next 15 years, that will count as part of that. And so we had done the analysis previously, and we had more than enough covered. But the big issue for myself and the other CAOs, as we have this discussion, is to make sure the hard costs are managed, because those will be expected to be expended. Like building of a fence, that's not, there's material and equipment. Doing the curb stops, there's material and equipment to those. But, I the value of the land, we've estimated somewhere around 285,000 per acre. And I just have to verify that because I found those numbers can be checked by provincial auditors, so I want to make sure that we're balanced. Like the value of service land in Morris isn't necessarily the same as service land in the Armistice, Comanche, or Stonewall. So we just, I want to be able to truth that as much as I can. So that's what we're working on next on this. The tender's been closed. It was closed on Friday. We did a review on Friday. Monday we did some further interviews with the shortlisted individuals and recommendations going to the John Q. Board. I was hoping to bring the financial assistance agreement for council to review, but unfortunately, the financial assistance agreement has to end up in the hands of the province first, so that everything works out. The biggest issue there is how is that money going to flow to 9 municipalities from one province centrally, then out to 9, and then how do we make sure we do these payments without putting people at municipalities having to draw upon lines of credit or other things. So,
Question, did you have lots of responses to the tender?
3. Same issues. The requirement is to get this building built by a short time period. Many people didn't put their name forward. It's just very competitive.
Can you say who was low?
Not at this point. I can tell you, I can tell you that they do hundreds of millions of dollars worth of work throughout the province. So we'll, so based on that, the other thing that I want to update council, next week we start our tax collection. We did rent the rental trailer again, we'll continue on. That has always been received, and as we discussed with council last year, we said that we were going to continue on this past COVID because the services will be using our staff, so people will be able to come in person and pay at the front counter, but then we'll be able to receive it out there. That's streamlined our entire tax collection process immensely in the last couple of years, which really alleviates a lot of that checking and balancing at the every day and all the extra time everyone was putting in. And last year we made the big change where we're able to take payment outside and electronically and make sure that it's all paid up properly. So our trailer will be set up in the hall or in the parking lot there, and with stairs this year, and hopefully we can manage.
A little campfire there so you can.
Well, that was the intent. The first year we did a tent. And then we discovered the heaters with the tent just wasn't working out very well, and I was out there with the staff some of the time, but not as long as some of the staff were, and I definitely felt for them. Last year using the trailer was a great improvement. This year we're going with the trailer again, and maybe in the future we can have our own sort of a separate booth set up. And depending on how the daycare is designed, maybe we can have a window outside the daycare window.
You must have 40% taken already.
As you've seen, people are coming in and paying every day, and there are quite a bit. We have a lot more people paying electronically. The amount of cash that's going through the system is not what it used to be in 2018 and 19, but it is changing, and a lot more people are beginning to sign up on the prepayment plan as well. And so
when they pay with credit card, that costs us 2 points.
we don't take credit card. We don't take credit card.
Oh,
We
you
take
don't?
debit, and we take.
So,
Go ahead.
how does that prepayment work? Is it discounted with that? No?
Just
Because I know we talked
calculate on a
about years
monthly
ago
basis.
that they could pay quarterly or whatever.
You can pay as much as you want, but I know that we had a discount one year, oh God, many years
Yeah.
ago. But it didn't bring the money in any quicker, like it was 3%, I think, if you paid it in a certain month, but it didn't bring the money in any quicker in the councils after that. Nobody wanted to do it.
Comment?
Go ahead.
So when you do that prepayment, and then you come in towards this time of the year and you say, how much more do I owe? Each time you came in throughout the year, is it just attached to your roll number? So when the girls click on it, they see that there's a reduction every year?
Correct.
Okay, that's a good idea.
So they know, and sometimes they'll agree to pay a certain amount, and then by the time October comes, they may only owe
Yeah,
the balance owed.
It's like banks do when they have their mortgage sometimes. They
Yeah.
put that on there. Yeah.
Good cash flow on both sides.
yeah.
Because you both know it's.
That's better.
That's it for yourself, okay. Heather, do you have anything you'd like to share with us today?
We did get the cameras installed as per council's request. So I
Oh.
don't know if, I've got 4 up,
Inside the building, and one outside?
got one outside, one at the back door, one at this end of the hallway facing the front door and the counter, and then one in the office that's right directly on the counter.
Very good.
It looks
Secure
very, very sharp, so
Thank you.
it's nice.
and cheap. Got it from Costco.
Awesome. And it's just a loop recorded, is that how it works?
It's on, yeah,
Okay.
so every time there's a motion,
Yeah,
it's making a recording,
excellent.
yeah.
Sort of
And now
wireless.
you have record of me being lost, going,
And I've got space for, like, it'll take 4 more if we wanted to add
Add to
any additional,
Excellent.
yeah.
so we could put some in the back and.
How did they last? I wonder with the test of how they last outside, right? Because the battery or.
I did the review, and they seem to hold up for Canadian winters, so
That's good.
we'll
Excellent.
see.
These
But we've got
hardwired or battery?
Pardon?
Are they hardwired or battery?
No, they're battery.
Battery.
Okay, is there any monitor, or are they just got chips in them, or?
Yeah,
No, it's-
SIM cards.
Okay.
It's the card, but then,
You get it off your phone, don't you?
management will get a notification if there's something, say, at nighttime, but our alarm will do the same, so.
It's good both at night, but you can also review it if we have
I can
some
see
kind of an incident
everything,
here or.
Yeah.
Okay.
anything going on during the day, we can look back on.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so if no one else has anything, I will ask for a resolution to go in camera and we can start those discussions. There's a number of items I see DPAC has on here. Let's take a couple of minute break maybe, or do you want to just wait until
First,
supper?
let's go
Oh, sorry,
in camera.
in camera, okay.
Council recess the regular meeting and go in camera to discuss legal and personnel issues. And further be it resolved that all matters discussed are to remain confidential as per section 83(1)D of the Municipal Act.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Strang seconds. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed?